I'm lost. That's what I've been saying for the first 24 years of my life. So I've been getting a lot of comments from you guys wanting to know about my transformation. So I figured I'll tell you guys about not only my physical transformation, as in my physique, but also my mental transformation and how I became the person I am today. So I'll start with elementary school because I don't really remember preschool. I'm pretty sure none of you guys remember preschool, but elementary school is where I started to realize the kind of things that I like and what I want to do in my life. The main thing I really liked in elementary school was sports. I played a bunch of sports in elementary school, but the main sport I really liked was basketball, and then I did taekwondo, but that's because my parents forced my brother and I to do it because they wanted us to know how to defend ourselves, but me and him hated taekwondo. But basketball was my passion, and it was also my brother's passion, and we would always play basketball after school. So essentially in elementary school, my entire life was focused on basketball and getting good grades because my parents really pushed my brother and I to get great grades. Elementary school was essentially a walk in the park for me because in elementary school, I feel like mentally, you're not really thinking about outside influences or who you want to be. All you're thinking about is getting grades to keep your parents happy and playing and having fun. But after elementary school, I went to a separate middle school, and this is where I reached my first ever mental hardship. So my elementary school was in a really nice neighborhood, and it was essentially a private school, but it was actually a public school. So after going to this elementary school, I ended up going to a different middle school, which was in a rougher area of town. So going into middle school, it was a huge culture shock just from the first day that I got there. And not only was it a huge culture shock to go to this middle school, but based on how my schedule worked out, I was separated from all my friends, including my brother. So this led to me essentially knowing nobody and having to find new friends along the way that were much different than the kind of friends that I hung out with in elementary school. This middle school was also more difficult academically than my elementary school. And I was in a bunch of advanced classes, so this was super difficult for me. So the combination of me being separated from my friends, the increased academic workload, and the huge pressure my parents put on me to get great grades, I ended up getting mental anxiety when I was in 6th grade. And this had to be probably the most difficult year of my life. I remember going to school every day being worried about even the littlest thing. Luckily, I never had like a panic attack or anything, but every day in school was a stressful moment for me. I was overthinking everything. I was overthinking social interactions. I was overthinking my grades. Everything you could think of, I was overthinking and making the problem worse. My mental anxiety was pretty bad to where I ended up seeing a therapist for it. Looking back on it, going to therapy didn't really help me because everything that was causing my mental anxiety was based on my own thought processes. It all came down to social anxiety and not feeling like I belonged, and the amount of pressure I put on myself to get good grades and make my parents proud. The only thing I really enjoyed doing was, just like elementary school, playing basketball. So my 6th grade year was essentially me going to school super stressed out about little things and playing basketball. And as I mentioned earlier, 6th grade had to be the hardest year of my life. But after 6th grade, I ended up going to the 7th and 8th grade school. So the way our middle school works, there was a 6th grade center and a 7th and 8th grade center. And I was actually pretty excited to go to the 7th and 8th grade center because they actually had sports teams for that school. And you could probably see this coming, but I was really excited to get into basketball. So my brother and I have been playing select basketball for the last couple of years, and we were really excited to try out and play for our school. And things worked out initially because my brother and I actually made the top team in our 7th grade year. Making the best team in 7th grade was super motivating, and I was super happy that I was able to do it. But being part of the best team in 7th grade would actually take a huge toll on my confidence. So one thing about my brother and I is that we were really small in middle school. Not only were we really small in terms of height, but we were also super skinny. So here's a picture of my brother and I in cross country that we did prior to doing basketball. You can see we were super skinny, and that actually helped us in cross country because I ended up being number 1 in the school and my brother was number 2. But back to basketball, my brother and I ended up starting on the bench our very first game. I remember this first game like it was yesterday because this is where everything went downhill. My brother and I just got subbed onto the game, and my brother passed me the ball and I took an open mid-range shot. And it was a pretty good shot and I almost scored. But after I took that mid-range shot, our coach subbed my brother and I off and then started yelling at us for doing whatever we wanted. After he yelled at us, he put us on the bench and we didn't play the rest of the game. I remember crying on the bus ride home because I didn't feel like I was treated fair. I got no playing time and my confidence went down like crazy. After that game, my brother and I played on the top team for a couple more games, but were eventually demoted. That whole entire experience made me fall in love with basketball. So the combination of that experience plus the fact that my brother and I were so small, we ended up transitioning to soccer. So after my 7th grade year, I got my black belt in Taekwondo, which I was super happy about. Not because the black belt actually meant anything to me, but because my parents would allow me to quit Taekwondo after I got my black belt. And this gave me all the time in the world just to play soccer. And my brother and I got the hang of soccer so fast, after only a couple months of playing soccer, we actually made a select team. In my 8th grade year, I made the top soccer team in the school. And we ended up winning the district championship, but I wasn't super happy on how the season played out. I came off the bench and I feel like what was really holding me back was how small I was. Again, my brother and I were even the smallest people on the soccer team, not just the basketball team. But the season overall went pretty well, so I was excited to go to high school and play soccer there. So coming into high school, I was 5 foot and 90 pounds. I was freaking tiny. And again, that did not help me in sports. Limited minutes. I felt like I was playing pretty well, but the coach didn't didn't play me. But again, I feel like a lot of it had to do with how small I was. And throughout high school, my whole entire life essentially revolved around video games. My two video games of choice being FIFA and NBA 2K. It's pretty crazy to look back and see how much video games played a part in my life. I played some video games in middle school, but my parents were more strict, so I didn't play as often. But in high school, I played a lot of video games, and my whole entire mental focus was on video games. In high school, my favorite thing to play was FIFA Ultimate Team, and my whole entire life revolved around FIFA Ultimate Team. All I was thinking about was, how am I going to afford this player? How am I going to improve my team? What division I was in? My whole entire mental focus was on FIFA. That sounds so ridiculous, but it was actually true. I played FIFA on the weekends, and my whole entire weekday was looking forward to the weekend to play FIFA. Looking back on it, I wish I had focused more on soccer and actually developing my soccer skills, but like I said, my whole entire mental focus was on a stupid video game. So after my freshman year of high school, I had grown a little bit, but I was still super tiny. And like I said, my whole entire focus was on video games. So I ended up quitting select soccer, and I told my parents that I quit select soccer to focus on my grades, but in reality, it was because I loved playing video games, and select soccer games were on the weekends when I would play video games. And like I said, that sounds so stupid, but my whole mental focus was on video games. So coming into sophomore year, I was super excited to play soccer still and hopefully go up the ranks. But we had a new coach come in, and he had no idea which players were good and which players were bad. So essentially, right when we got back from the summer, it was full tryouts mode. So essentially, my brother and I didn't even get a chance to try out for the soccer team because the new coach saw us and saw how small we were. I think we were roughly around 5'4"-ish, maybe 100 pounds. So we did grow a little bit from our freshman year. But I remember this like it was yesterday. The coach had us line up in front of him, and he would pick players to scrimmage so he could see who was good. And he would be assigning numbers to each player to play on each team. And I'm not lying, the guy literally skipped over my brother and I and then chose other people to play. So my brother and I didn't even end up getting to try out for the team. So it was super demotivating, but my brother and I ended up playing on the freshman soccer team as sophomores. But looking back on this had to be one of the best things that could have happened to me. I was typically a striker, but for the freshman soccer team, I ended up moving to center back, and I ended up playing every single minute of that season. I won defensive co-MVP with my brother, and I was actually the leading goal scorer for the team as a center back. So yeah, that shows the coach made a terrible decision on skipping on me in that line. And it was great to hear that this coach was actually trying to upgrade my brother and I from the freshman team to the JV team. But the freshman team coaches didn't let him do that because my brother and I were so important to the team. It was crazy to see the development of my game just based on increased confidence and a little bit of an increase in size. Like I said before, I wasn't super big at this time either, but I had grown a little bit from my freshman year. And this momentum ended up carrying me through my junior year. I was defensive co-MVP again that year, and I was upgraded to the varsity team. But while soccer was going great in my sophomore and junior year, I was still addicted to video games, and at this point I was really addicted to My Park on 2K. I remember my sophomore year that in my science class, these people used to pick on me all the time because of how skinny I was. And I would just kind of laugh it off, but deep down inside it really did hurt. And when my insecurity was at its lowest was my summer job after my sophomore year. So I ended up working at a country club, and I worked at the snack bar for this country club. And it was me, my brother, and a bunch of girls who worked at this snack bar. And believe it or not, these girls used to pick on my brother and I for how skinny and how weak we were. I was hitting the gym off and off at this time just because of how insecure I was throughout my sophomore year, but I literally wouldn't tell people at my job that I worked out because I was afraid that they were gonna make fun of me for even trying to build muscle. But there are two moments that stick in my head about how insecure I was, about how weak and how small I was. The first thing was when I had to lift these big 10-gallon water jugs. Now, these things were freaking heavy. Like, I actually looked it up, like 10 gallons of water is about 85 pounds. And because me and my brother were the only guys that worked at the snack bar, the girls made my brother and I lift these 85-pound 10-gallon jugs of water. And I remember when I was trying to lift these big jugs, I would struggle so badly and people would be laughing at me while I was struggling with these water jugs. And the second moment was when the country club actually had an employee day where we actually got to go swim in the pool. I remember I was so skinny that someone asked me how much I weighed, and I literally lied saying I was 135 pounds when I'm pretty sure I was about 125-ish, and I was a sophomore in high school and I had just turned 17 years old and I was 125 pounds. So yeah, after this experience is when I started to lift weights a little bit more seriously. But the first thing was I had no idea what I was doing. I actually just released a beginner program that I'll leave in the description because I was doing advanced and intermediate lifting programs when I just started, and this actually hurt my progress and my motivation to keep lifting. I was super inconsistent when I started out. There were times times where I skipped the gym just to stay home and play video games, or my brother and I would play basketball prior to lifting, and we'd get so exhausted that we just tell each other, hey, let's not lift today, let's just play basketball. So the combination of me skipping the gym, playing basketball prior to lifting and gassing myself out, and me stopping lifting when soccer season started led to very little results. But after my senior year of soccer is when I really started to hit the gym seriously. I was still pretty skinny. I was about 140 pounds at the end of soccer, and I actually finally grew. I was about 5'10"-ish at my senior year, but I was still very skinny and insecure and wanted to build a great body. So finishing off high school, it was essentially me playing Fortnite till about 11 o'clock at night, and then going to the gym at around 12 o'clock at night or 1 a.m. because our dad actually shut off the internet at around 10 or 11 o'clock because my brother and I were so loud playing Fortnite. So me and him decided that instead of going to the gym at a proper time, we would go to the gym around 1 a.m. so that when the internet shut off, we could just go to the gym and not waste any Fortnite time. So yeah, the last couple months of high school was essentially a combination of me playing Fortnite, going to the gym around 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and then sleeping throughout the school day. But after college, I ended up going to university to study physical therapy. Did I want to do PT? Not really. My dad actually recommended PT for me, and because I was so lost and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, I was just like, all right. So yeah, I went to college with my brother and ended up studying PT. And honestly, I slept walked through my entire college journey. I got very average grades and didn't really know what I was going for. All I was really focused on in college was lifting weights because I actually got very consistent right when college started. And of course, video games with NBA 2K and FIFA being my primary video games of choice. So as I mentioned earlier, I was sleepwalking through college. I didn't really have a goal or passion in mind. I was just kind of going through the motions. In my junior year of college, I got back into martial arts and started doing boxing and Muay Thai. The reason why I got back into martial arts is because I think knowing how to fight is super important as a man. And I wasn't very confident in my Taekwondo background. If I'm gonna be honest, I feel like Taekwondo is very limited and you should combine Taekwondo with another martial art. So after getting back into martial arts, I got into the UFC. Initially, I just got into the UFC to learn about striking and learn about what the pros do. But I ended up really falling in love with the UFC. With the first pay-per-view I've ever watched being UFC 261, Usman versus Masvidal 2. First pay-per-view I actually bought was UFC 263, Adesanya versus Vettori. And guess who was fighting on that card? Leon Edwards. This is where the Leon Edwards meme started. I remember I was watching Edwards versus Nate Diaz and I commented to my brother how Leon Edwards' waist is so small. Little did I know this conversation would turn into a meme and actually be a big part of not only my channel, my brother's channel, but the whole entire fitness industry. But after my junior year, I actually started PT school. The way that PT school works from my school is I was actually in an accelerated program. So we did 3 undergrad years and 3 grad school years. So my first grad school year was actually not that difficult. I did it pretty easily, but my next grad school year was actually a lot more difficult. And because my brother graduated, it was actually the first time I was going to be living without my brother. And looking back on it, it wasn't too bad. I thought I was going to be missing my brother a lot, but I actually didn't miss him that much. And I feel like it's because we both understood that we were doing things to help our futures. And I ended up finishing my second grad school year and started my first PT clinicals. For those of you who don't know what clinicals are, you essentially work as a PT for free with an instructor and you're actually being graded on. And I did my first one here in Texas and I absolutely hated it. I disliked going to the clinic. I was working for 9 hours a day and it was pretty crazy because I was so upset because I was like, I just studied 5 years hard just for this and I can't see myself being a PT. Even when I was studying for my PT classes, I felt like I was lost. I felt like I was chasing someone else's dream and I was kind of just going through the motions. I didn't really have an end goal in mind. But this combined with me doing my PT clinicals and not wanting to do this for the rest of my life made me feel super lost. But luckily I had started my YouTube channel right after my 5th year of school and this was carrying me throughout my whole entire clinical experience. Ever since I was a freshman in college, I've always known I wanted to be a fitness influencer. Although when I was a freshman in college, I hadn't made any crazy gains, I fell in love with fitness and how it can change your life. My initial plan was to start my YouTube channel after I graduated PT school, but with the push from my brother and me having a gut feeling, I decided to start my YouTube channel right after I finished my 5th year. So I was balancing working at the PT clinic as well as growing my YouTube channel. And honestly, my YouTube channel was the only thing keeping me motivated in the PT clinic because my YouTube channel made me feel like I wasn't wasting my time and I was actually growing something. And the great thing about my YouTube channel was I was actually super passionate about it and was really excited for the future. And my YouTube channel ended up growing like crazy. I ended up getting 100,000 followers in only 2 months of doing YouTube. But this actually led me to having to withdraw from PT school. I made a video on this topic, which I'll leave a link to, but I'll summarize it very quickly. Essentially, someone saw one of my videos and reported it to my PT program, and they took a look look at all my social media accounts and told me that if I didn't delete all my social media accounts, they wouldn't let me go back to PT school. And for me, this was a very easy choice. Even though my friends and some of my family said that I should stay in PT school and delete all my social media accounts, doing fitness and teaching other people about fitness has always been a passion of mine. Although it was an easy choice, it changed my life completely. After this, I officially moved right back down to Texas and started doing YouTube full time. Now I would say I'm the happiest I've ever been because I'm going after my passion and what I truly want to do. So all the little things that I went through in my life, like having mental anxiety, being super small and super skinny, going to PT school and learning about the human body, all these little things, with some of them being very difficult and things that I didn't want to do, actually led me to who I am today. So if you're watching this video and you're lost, remember it's okay and that eventually you'll find your purpose. And to remember that hard times make strong men. I hope you guys know a little bit more about me now and how I became the person I am today. I would still say the biggest thing that changed my life was lifting weights, because a strong body makes a strong mind. So if you're looking for programs to change your body and change your life, I'll leave a link in the description. If you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe, and thanks for watching.